Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross and today I'm going to be looking at the Space Marine Index Army rules and giving you my first impressions of them. A bit unusual that the Space Marines didn't come first, usually that is the case for them and it was the Tyranids first. So very interesting to see the Index Army on this one. We have had a lot of rules previewed for this, which just gives us an idea of how they work, but now we've got the full thing in scope. So with that, let's have a look at the Index Army rules. Starting at the Space Marine Army rules, how this works is that this appears to be how all Space Marines will get this rule, and then when they get specific detachments, then they get their detachment rule on top of it as well. So, what do the Space Marines get overall? This is Oath of the Moment. If your army is Adeptus Astartes at the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army. Till the start of the next command phase, each time a model from your army with this ability makes an attack that targets the enemy unit, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. So they promised that we're going to see less rerolls, but certainly for the Space Marine side that might not be the case. I suppose because there's not overlapping amount of aura rerolls, maybe we will see less, but this still determines that one unit in your opponent's force is going to be hit, and it's going to be hit hard. Essentially target focusing a unit and trying to bring it down. An exceptionally powerful ability that makes me a little bit worried on that side. One of the more powerful of the sort of army faction abilities that we have seen. It's going to be useful against things like knights because they don't field too many units as is, and each one of them lost is going to be quite a hurt, so adding on the already ridiculous amount of options that Space Marines have for damage, making them have all these rerolls, will almost guarantee that a unit might be deleted per turn. It's really going to require a lot of focus from an opponent to make sure they don't get the most out of this ability. And then we also have the Space Marine chapters, which is if an Adeptus Astartes unit has a second faction keyword on their data sheet, that is the name of the unit's chapter, i.e. Calgar being Ultramarines, and you can't include more than one chapter in your army, which is a good way of keeping them separate, that you can't pick and choose from the forces. Overall, I really like this because Oath of the Moment is very, very simple, and I like it when they keep the rules not too simple, but simple enough for them to be effective. And this certainly can be effective. Could it be overly effective? Well, we'll find out. On to the first detachment that is available for Space Marines at the moment, and we have the Gladius Task Force Detachment. And it's quite simple when it comes to their rules. It is Combat Doctrines, which has changed quite a wee bit since the last edition. So at the start of your command phase, you select a command doctrine which stays until your next command phase and affects all Adeptus Astartes. You can only use each combat doctrine once. So, Devastator Doctrine, units can shoot when they advance. Tactical Doctrine, units can shoot and charge when they've fallen back. Assault Doctrine, units can charge when they have advanced. All of these work simply, which I absolutely like, keeps everything a little bit more easier to play with. And I like the fact they are limited. You're not choosing one every round because you could just really focus on one, your whole army going cool. Going to go Devastator Doctrine, I'll be able to advance and shoot and move around the field quicker. No, you have to choose the opportune moments to use them. Really like them. They are focusing on movement quite a lot, which in this edition, well, in the previous editions, but I imagine in this edition as well, is going to be important. That movement is essential. So having all these is pretty good. I really like the Assault Doctrine. I think that's going to add just that wee bit extra of advance for your forces. The other two, the Devastator Doctrine is good. It does mean you can advance and shoot, which is great. And the Tactical Doctrine I feel is going to be more situational, that you might use that later game once you've maybe been stuck in combat, done some damage, and now you need to consolidate back onto objectives. You've got to fall back, maybe shoot that opponent, cause them damage, and move into more prioritised positions. So yeah, I can see all of these being useful, but the point is they are simple and easy to use, and they are impactful. On to the enhancements next. For the Gladius Task Force, we have the Artificer Armour, which is bearer, gains 2+ armor save and 5+ feel no pain. Interesting upgrade to really try and improve the survivability of a unit. I can see this on Capture Jump Pack, just to give them that little bit of, considering they'll probably be in combat quite a little bit more survivability, but I can also see on the Gravis Captain a lot. They have a native ability to half the damage incoming on them, and they don't have a 2+ armor save or a 5+ feel no pain, so this just really makes a much more already survivable unit that even much further in survival. So if he's getting stuck into combat, this could be a really good upgrade to ensure that he sticks around for a bit longer. Next up we have the Honor Vehement, which is bearer gains +1 to attack and strength of their melee weapons, while under the effect of Assault Doctrine, gain 2 to attack and strength instead. I'm interested to see where people would like to put this. Honestly, my opinion is the Judicar. makes them 6 attacks, strength 8, and with fight first and devastating wounds and precision, makes them a combat dueler very, very efficiently. There might be other options with this one that'll be a little bit better, but I can see it just pushing the Judicar up to that strength 8, which I feel is very, very important in case you come across any toughness 4 characters. Interesting choice, do quite like it. Adept of the Codex, so this is captains only. At the start of the command phase, if the bearer is on the field, you can forgo selecting a combat doctrine this turn, and instead the tactical doctrine is in effect for the bearer until even if it's been used before. I can see use for this one, but really it's going to be that sort of niche option that has the timing requirement for it to get the most out of it, get you out of combat when they are either unfavourable or you need to be moving on to another combat elsewhere, or be able to fire. Generally, this is probably one of the weaker ones out of all of them, but I can see use, but it is going to be one of those emergency moment uses, which I'm not so much of a fan of. The next one is Bolter Discipline, which is while bearer is leading a unit, ranged weapons have sustained hits 1. In addition, when the Devastator Doctrine is in effect, models in that unit critical hit on 5+. Once again, I think this is actually probably a great enhancement, probably the best one I've seen so far. Primaris Captain guiding a Hellblaster squad I think has a lot of potential there, but also Captain Phobos Armour guiding a Scout Sniper squad could possibly an unrelenting amount of wounds on characters. Simply put, that Scout Sniper squads have a lot of potential in there. Adding this onto it should also bring a little bit more damage and pressure to your opponent's characters that they may be trying to protect. Yeah, I can see a lot of interesting ones here. I think the Bolter Discipline, there's going to be definite uses for that one. That would be an easy go-to. The Artificer Armour, I think again is probably one, if you are bringing a combat character, you might edge towards that one, just because in certain uses that's going to be really, really nice. The Honor Venom, I can see its use, and as I said, I'd like on the Judicar, we'll see if that works out. And then the Adept of the Codex is probably one of those ones that you're going to have to think about, and generally the other ones just seem to have so much better abilities that it's going to be one of those ones you're going to have to think before you take. First part of the stratagems for the Gladius Task Force now, and we're looking at Only in Death Does Duty End, which is an Epic Deed stratagem at 2 command points. When does it work? Fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, and the target of it is the Adeptus Astartes unit that was selected as a target. Till the end of the phase, if a model in that unit has not fought and is destroyed, roll a d6 on a 4+, do not remove from play. The model can attack after the enemy unit's attacks and is then removed from play. I quite like this one, as you're going to end up in some engagements that is not favourable. It might be a unit that is really good in combat, but your opponent's going to be striking first. This allows you to at least get some retribution back on them. Maybe a bit costly at 2 command points, because you do have to select it before you actually have target of your models being destroyed, but I do see very much good use for it. Next is Honour the Chapter. It's a battle tactic stratagem at 1 command point. When it's used, it's the fight phase. It's 1 Adeptus Astartes unit in your army. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped on this unit have Lance. In addition, if under the effects of the Assault Doctrine, improve AP as well. That is a fantastic stratagem as a bargain for 1 command point. Lance is a great ability, that +1 to wound when you are charging, and then the extra pip of AP really does help you sort of bring together the Assault Doctrine as well. I think if you are playing a melee focused force, this is going to be a very good staple for your army. Next we have Armour of Contempt, which is a battle tactic stratagem at 1 command point. When do you use it? Opponent shooting phase or fight phase, and that's, I believe, just the fight phase in general. Just after an enemy unit has selected its target. The target is Adeptus Astartes unit that was selected as a target. Till the end of the phase, each time an attack targets this unit, worsen the AP by 1. Very simple defensive stratagem, which will make a sizable difference. I think it's great for 1 command point. Going to be something where if your opponent's trying to bring down a certain key unit, just adding that little bit of survivability will go wonders. And next we have Adeptive Strategy, which is Strategic Ploy Stratagem at 1 command point. You use this in your command phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit in your army. The effect is select the Devastator, Tactical or Assault Doctrine, and until the end of the command phase, until your next command phase, that unit is under its effects instead of the army-wide one. You can even use a doctrine that was already chosen. I think this is a very, very helpful stratagem. Main reason being is that I think if you maximise it with other enhancements or stratagems, it will pay off dividends to really see a very powerful amount of damage you can bring back. So very, very useful. Again, situational, but I think those situations are going to occur quite often and you can build a unit or two around it. So yeah, again, very, very useful stratagem. And the last stratagems are Storm of Fire, which is a battle tactic stratagem, costs 1 command point, used in your shooting phase, and the target is 1 Adeptus Astartes unit in your army. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons in this unit have ignore cover. If under Devastator Doctrine, then improve the AP of ranged weapons in this unit by 1 as well. A very simple offensive stratagem for this one. Cover can be a real pain, so it's going to be really dependent on if your opponent is utilising it or not. And the extra AP is nice to have to cause a little bit more damage as well. It is also just completely dependent on your opponent being in cover compared to the Lance one for the combat unit, where that's always going to be useful unless you're extremely strong and, you know, wounding on 2+ anyway. But I do think this one will see use. If you are shooting, then that extra AP in on itself could also be highly usable itself. So yeah, this one's an okay one. Might have been something nicer than ignoring cover, but I do think it will find quite a bit of use. Then we have Squad Tactics, which is Strategic Ploy Stratagem, costs 1 command point. When to use it, your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit finished a normal advance or fallback move, and targets 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry mounted unit that is within 9 inches of an enemy who completes their move. The effect is the unit can make a normal move up to D6, or if under the Tactical Doctrine, is a 6-inch normal move. However, can't be used if they are within engagement range. So again, another very useful stratagem. This could get you out of dodge if a unit is looking like they're going to bear down and make a charge. You could get that lucky D6 and get out of there. Maybe you might only get 1 inch. Maybe onto Tactical Doctrine and you're getting that 6-inch movement. It is one of those ones that is going to be situational, but I think in just about every game it is going to be a situation that will occur. So it can be useful. It's not about really causing damage in this one. It's not really about survivability. It offers you mobility options, and they can be game-changing in on itself. And that is it for my first impressions when it comes to Space Marine Index army rules. Overall, okay, I think they are very, very good. They're very, very simple, which I'm enjoying. It's able to keep your head around all the rules going on. I think for some more competitive players, they might be a bit disappointed that the rules have been made simplified, but not simple, is the term I think they're using. But I think for the general playing audience of people, especially for myself, who's more of a casual gamer, where I just enjoy the game, I'm not looking to win or lose, I'm enjoying the epic moments sometimes. And I think this is really good in terms of Space Marines. I'm a little bit worried about Oath of the Moment. That seems really powerful itself. But when I looked at the stratagems and enhancements, what I always thought when it came to Warlord traits, relics and stratagems is they were far too bloated. Too many of them were just simply feeling like they're filling space. Now I know there would be some people who are using some of the peripheral ones that were not, you know, considered competitive, but all of these seem to have been focused on and seem to be quite good. There may be the odd outlier of one that's maybe not so ideal, but really I can see a lot of use for just about everything written, and I think that's excellent. That is the way that stratagems and I suppose enhancements should be. You don't need to have 12 of them, you don't need to have 20 of them, you need to have good ones. And when they're a little bit limited like this, I think that personally pays off. So what does everyone think? Are people who play Space Marines happy with this? I'm not a Marine player, I'm more on the Heretic side, but I think as a starting base for this, I think it's quite good. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.